DJ Stosh here. I just got back from North Carolina where we went to visit our in-laws for Christmas vacation. Usually we go up there for Thanksgiving. This time we went for Christmas, and one of the gifts that I got was a new light which holds my phone, so now I can take videos in this tiny dark room, and you can see my face, which isn't a great benefit for most of you out there, but it helps me anyway. Makes me feel a little bit better about what these videos look like. So anyway, I thought I'd go through some of the finds that I had. This wasn't really the greatest shopping trip I've ever had for records, but I did find some pretty cool stuff in different places. So I'm always on the hunt. I went to a couple of the places I usually go to and tried a couple of new ones. So first off, this was in Statesville. Let's see, I found two records at a place called Resettler's Antiques that I've gone to before, never found any records before. And so on this particular trip, I found Roxy Music Avalon, which I've never owned a copy of. This was in really nice condition. And Emmylou Harris's Last Date, another record I've never owned a copy of before. Has some covers of Graham Parsons tunes that she does on here. And anyway, they wanted $10 a piece for these. I asked if they'd take $15 for both, and they said yes. So I got a deal on those. So those were the first two records that I bought on this trip. Okay, after I went to Resettler's Antiques, I stopped at a place called Yokeville Thrift Store, which is also in Statesville. I don't think I've ever been in there before. It's laid out sort of like a Goodwill or a Salvation Army. And I found the soundtrack to the film Grand Prix for $1. Which is kind of interesting because at another record store I went to later, I found the same soundtrack and they were asking $3 for it. So I had just read about this movie recently. It's a film that starred James Garner, and it was a role that Steve McQueen wanted to play, and instead James Garner got the role, and later on Steve McQueen, of course, played the lead role in the movie Le Mans. This is a pretty neat gatefold, though. It's got a lot of pictures of the movie and writing about it. The soundtrack's by Maurice Jarre. Haven't heard anything off of this, so I'm curious to hear what it sounds like. And it's just kind of an interesting little artifact from the 60s. So for $1, I thought that was a good deal. And I found this, which was sort of a strange thing to find. Is a Martin Denny CD. And it's called Exotica 90. It's actually a Japanese pressing. And I played it. It's pretty good. It's got very nice production values. Some of the songs are not what I would like to hear out of Martin Denny, but I guess this was a case where he was recording in two different studios, and he had some Japanese producers in one and some Hawaiian producers in another. So the things that sound like more typical Martin Denny Exotica are very good on here, but I think the Japanese produced stuff is a little bit treacly, and it wasn't that interesting to me, but it's still an interesting CD, and it actually sells for quite a bit more than I paid for it. I think I got this for $1, and I've seen it on Discogs for $25 or more, so that was a nice little pickup too. My next stop was in about the middle of the week, and it was in a place called Hickory, North Carolina that I've been to before, and the last time I was there, I got stuck in a bead shop with my wife, and there was a soap store and all kinds of other stuff I wasn't interested in. So I'd done some Yelping, and I saw that a record store had opened at the second floor of a arts and crafts boutique called Bottega. And the store it belongs to a gentleman named Brent, and it's called Crate Diggers. And you walk up the stairs and you're presented with a whole floor full of crates of vinyl, which is exactly like what I want to see when I go into a store. So I spent about 2 hours in there digging through and finding all kinds of cool stuff. So that was actually the highlight of my trip. So kudos to Brent. I hope the store stays in business for a long, long time, and that I get to go back to it every time I'm in Hickory. So sort of in the order that I found them, the first thing that I found in there was a Miko record, and this might well be the last one that I needed to complete my Miko collection. This is Miko Pop Goes the Movies, one that I don't see very often. Another one that I found, these can be kind of hit and miss, but I found a National Lampoon album. This one is called Radio Dinner. It's from the early 70s. Looks pretty funny. I really like the album that they put out called That's Not Funny, That's Sick. But then I've heard other National Lampoons that really weren't that good. So, I have high hopes for this one. We'll see how it is. For the first time, I found a PFM record. Italian prog band. They sold a couple of albums here in the States. They did somewhat well for an Italian prog anyway. This one is called Jet Lag. It's still in the shrink. It's got a promo sticker on it. Factory sealed for your protection. I think I've heard this record on MP3 format before, but I can't remember too much what it sounds like. To add to my Jethro Tull collection on vinyl, which has been growing. I used to have this on vinyl. It's Jethro Tull's 1987 album, Crest of a Knave. This is in the shrink. It's got the hype sticker on it. Really, really super nice condition. I think I picked this one up for $5. So I like that album. And this one, I've never owned a copy of this on vinyl. I have this on CD. It's Nazareth's Close Enough for Rock and Roll. I paid $8 for it. It's gatefold. Usually you don't see it in this nice shape. It appears to have the signatures of the band members on the inside gatefold, which I was really excited about. There's the inner sleeve. And I noticed also, I haven't really done a lot of investigation on this copy yet, but there is some Nazareth promotional material here, a little flyer. I haven't read that yet. Looks like some photo negatives of Nazareth in concert. And I'm guessing this might be from the Snaz tour because there was a copy of Snaz next to this album. And then these look like either a set list or some set notes for Nazareth. So really interesting stuff. I thought $8 was a really good price to pay for all that. Okay, moving on. Another record that I found. I don't know much about this. It's Automatic Man. I'm hoping it's kind of some space disco. It's from the early 70s. It was $5. Nice shape. It's got an embossed cover. Then this I found in the $2 bin. Grace Jones' Slave to the Rhythm. I have heard this record and I like it. I've never owned a copy of it before. It's in really great shape. The disc especially is flawless. And then finally, Brent cut me a deal on this one. This is an Elder album. It's called Reflections of a Floating World. Sort of a stoner rock, proggy kind of thing. It just looked really interesting. I don't know much about this band. Inner sleeves. I like the vinyl quite a bit. Both discs look similar to this. One's blue and the other's a little bit more of a green Coke bottle shade. So I'm looking forward to checking that one out. So if you're in Hickory, North Carolina, definitely do stop into Crate Diggers and say hi to Brent and pick up some records and support your local business there. Okay, usually when I go to North Carolina, I end up spending quite a bit of time in a store called McKay's, and they just opened a brand new gigantic location that's sort of the size and layout of a Second and Charles or a Half Price Books. Actually bigger than either of those, though. I've never seen a media store this big. And anyway, that's in Winston-Salem. So we usually take a day to go to Winston-Salem, and I always end up hitting a couple of record shops while I'm there. So this time I don't really feel like I got as much for the amount of time that I spent in the store, but I did come away with some things. So in their cheapy vinyl bin, which is the price varies depending on what the item is. I found Jane Seabury's The Speckless Sky, which is a replacement of a copy that I traded a long time ago. This was only $0.25, and the jacket's it's got a little bit of wear to it, but it's really not too bad at all. And the disc is in a VRP sleeve, so I mean that's just a steal for $0.25. Really love Jane Seabury's music, especially the stuff from the early 80s on Duke Street. Another thing I found is a Peter Brown record. This is called Do You Want to Get Funky With Me? Don't know anything about this. It looks like disco. Read some of the liner notes. It seemed like the type of music I would probably enjoy. So That was 95 cents. And then I found a Claudia Berry album. This one is, I believe, just called Claudia on Sal Soul. Looks like some pretty good disco there. This was also 95 cents. So didn't really do too much damage in the vinyl category. And after thumbing around through these CDs for a little bit, I found this Take 6 CD, or Take That, not Take 6. Take That, Nobody Else is what it's called. I'd never heard of this band before. I guess they were huge in the UK and sort of a boy band similar to NSYNC over here. I would normally not buy this kind of music, but really got hooked on this band from watching an episode of Dairy Girls. So I just kind of wanted something sort of funny to ride around and listen to, and this was only $1, so I picked that up. And this, on the other hand, was the best thing that I found. This was a CD by April March, and it's called Chrominance Decoder. And I think it might be her 3rd CD, and I did play this a couple of times while I was driving around, and it is fantastic. So I paid $2.95 for Chrominance Decoder. Totally recommend this one. Later on in the day in Winston-Salem, I went to a record store I'd never been to before called Earshot Records, which is in a little strip mall not too far from the main mall in Winston-Salem. And they mostly carry new vinyl, which isn't really my thing, but I spent about an hour in there just kind of looking around. And I found one used record, which I was super excited to find because I never in a million years thought that I'd see this in a used bin anywhere. And it is a Maserati album. It's Maserati 7. That's not the Paisley Park Maserati. This is the Maserati that's actually correctly spelled Maserati. And it's just a beautiful gatefold record. So $9 too, which I thought was a great price for this. And in addition to my Maserati record, I decided to pick up on new vinyl the new Temples record called Hot Motion, which I believe just came out this year. And this one is on multicolored Galaxy Effect vinyl, includes poster and download. So I have not heard anything off of this record yet. I have their first album, Sun Structures. I did not manage to get the second album, so that one's still one that I want to pick up, but I went ahead and got this because I wanted the multicolored vinyl, and it was $23. The last store that I went to, I haven't been to in a few years. The first time I was there, I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I found a Larry Coryell record and an LA4 record. This time when I went in, I had a difficulty finding where the records and CDs were, but eventually after going through the maze-like premises, I was able to track down where they were. And while the records didn't actually produce any results, I did find this wonderful CD. The People Who Grinned Themselves to Death by the Housemartins. I've never owned a copy of this. I have it on MP3. It was only $1, so got to play that while I was driving around in North Carolina. Had a lot of fun doing it. So that's all I found. I'd be curious to hear if anybody else picked anything up. Record shopping over Christmas. Those are my finds. And I did want to mention before I head in the video that this is what I bring my vinyl back in. It's a Trader Joe's bag. Has nice, it actually has sides to keep stuff cool, but they also help to cushion vinyl. So if you're driving in a car or traveling on a plane, you can pick one of these Trader Joe's bags up, and they're perfect to bring back maybe about 15 or 20 records. So just thought I'd share that tip. Thanks for watching.